Welcome to the High Sensory Mothers podcast with Karen Hunt, a supportive space dedicated to mothers with high sensory intelligence. Each week, I'll share insights from my own experiences and those of my clients, alongside empowering conversations with inspiring guests who offer practical wisdom and guidance. Together, we'll help you embrace your sensitivity so you can thrive, not just in motherhood, but in your life and business too. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the High Sensory Mothers podcast. So today we're going to be shifting gears slightly because we're going to look at business and why I believe that we are ideally suited to be entrepreneurs. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably identify as an HSP, a highly sensitive person, or as I like to reframe it, a high sensory person. And you're a mother and you either have a business or you'd like to have a business. So it may be a goal of yours, but you could be thinking, how on earth can I add this on to my already crazy busy life? Are you mad? No, you're not mad, and it can be done. I'm not suggesting that it's particularly easy, but it definitely can be done. And I'd like to argue the case that we're actually ideally suited to entrepreneurial life. So let's have a look at that now. Why are we so well suited to being entrepreneurs? To answer that, first of all, let's acknowledge who we are. When I say we, I'm referring to you and also to me. Because, first of all, we're both women, which means that we've grown up in a society where, even before we became mothers, we have probably been conditioned to and expected to look after other people, quite possibly before ourselves. So, as we have become mothers, obviously, we really do have to often look after other people before ourselves, especially when we've got very little babies. So we quite possibly again are shouldering the lion's share of both the emotional and mental load of having a family. And we may well also be shouldering a lot of the physical requirements that are needed when you look after a home and raise a family. And on top of that, it's quite possible too that we are also working outside the home in order to earn an income. That obviously goes on top of the free labour that we already provide in our families as well. So that's a lot, right? And on top of that, again, we're HSPs, which means because of that extra gift that we have of a deeper sensitivity than other people, a deeper way of processing sensory information, emotions, and all that goes along with the gifts of sensitivity, means we actually do need to take even more care of ourselves, and we need more time to ourselves to resource ourselves, especially with the huge demands that we have upon us. Because of our sensitivity, we tend to be really good at anticipating the needs of others, and we quite possibly feel obligated to do so as well. So when you put it all together, it's a lot. And one of the reasons why I believe that we're so well suited to the entrepreneurial life is that because as HSPs, we're so good at seeing how the world can be a better place. We can really see what people need. We can really identify patterns, and therefore we can identify opportunities in the market, gaps in the market. We're also brilliant at recognizing the potential in others. And as we recognize the potential in others, we're also very good at supporting them and helping them to develop themselves. So, these are some great qualities that we have that are ideal for entrepreneurs. So, we are good at spotting gaps in the market, as I mentioned. And that also means because we're good at pattern recognition, we can identify future trends. So often we'll have ideas about things and it could be a little early, or we could just be the first in the marketplace. There are definitely benefits to identifying things early, but there are also some drawbacks as well, which we can talk about in more detail. But these are things that we see that could have a really positive impact upon the world because we tend to see how things could be improved. And again, that's another great trait. So we're off to a really great start by identifying business opportunities. I wanted to have a quick look at what the definition of an entrepreneur is and what qualities they need to be successful. So let's have a look. There are obviously lots of definitions of being an entrepreneur, but one here is an entrepreneur is someone who identifies a need or opportunity in the market and takes the initiative to start and build a business or venture around it. Entrepreneurs are typically risk takers who use creativity, strategy, and resources to create value, whether through products, services, or innovations. So let's have a look at some qualities that you need to be a successful entrepreneur. There are lots of different sources to get this information. One of them I looked at was an article from Forbes last year in 2024. And it was the 5 essential traits of successful founders, according to ChatGPT. And the 5 traits there were visionary thinking, resilience, adaptability, decisiveness, and empathy. I find that HSPs are really visionary thinkers because we deeply consider life and questions and we're curious. We tend to see the good in people and situations. And so put those two together, we envision a better future. And so I think being a visionary thinker is a natural ability that we have. And that is a really important trait. And obviously, empathy. We are very empathic. It is easy for us to put ourselves in other people's shoes. The problem we have more often than not is not putting ourselves in other people's shoes. It's that we just don't want to spend too much time there. We need to bring ourselves back and not get sucked into another person's life or situation. So we can easily go there and we just need to bring ourselves back as well. So that's really good. Those I think are pretty straightforward for us. Doesn't take a lot of effort for us to think in that visionary way and to be empathic. The resilience, I find that it can be difficult for us, not because we're not resilient, because we most definitely are resilient. Because sometimes we may have got to a point where it's just been too much. We might have burnt out. We might have had some mental health struggles. We might be depressed because of all the things that we've experienced and the difficulties that we've had. However, we are resilient because we're still here and we do get through things. And I think once we really learn how to navigate the requirements that we have in order to function at our best, once we learn how to do that, we're extremely resilient because we have been through a lot of struggles and just existing in the world that wasn't built for us means that we've learnt that resiliency. So the other two are adaptability. And again, I think that you do have to adapt to different situations when you have a business. Not everything is within your control. And so that can be difficult for us. We do like to have things done well. We do like to do things properly. We do like certainty up to a point. So that is something that we need to embrace. But again, I think going hand in hand with the resilience, we can learn to be more adaptable, particularly, I think, if we learn to really trust ourselves and we have great intuition. And it's not mentioned in these 5, but it's certainly mentioned in most lists of top 10 traits. Creativity, intuition, curiosity, they're all really important too. So once we learn how to trust our intuition, that can help us be more adaptable because we've got a very powerful source within us, that creativity and that intuition to make changes as we need to go along. And that will bring me to the last trait there, which is the decisiveness. Now, personally, I have always been indecisive, but as I've developed this inner understanding of myself or inner standing and this trust in myself, this confidence in myself, it's making it easier and easier for me to make decisions more quickly. So again, I think we have the resources within us to be good entrepreneurs, and we just have to watch out for some of the pitfalls that we might fall into. When we struggle with decisions, it can be because we want to make the right decision. And because we're so good at processing a lot of information, we want to process a lot of information before we make a decision. And sometimes you just can't do that. And that's when I think it's powerful to turn to your intuition. You obviously need to use the data that you have available to you, but sometimes you just have to make a quick decision. I think it's also a common issue with women. Men tend to be, and again, I'm very much generalizing here, but men tend to be a bit more confident with making quick decisions. And women, I think, tend to want to make the right decision. So therefore, there can be some difficulty there in making good, quick decisions. As a mother, you've probably found that your intuition has developed further. And so both being an HSP and a mother means that we have even more opportunity to connect with our intuition and listen to that. Mother's intuition is a phrase for a good reason. And sometimes we can't explain why we just know something to be true, but we do. So when you're a mother and an HSP, it's like a double whammy, really. So I think we must make use of this gift that we have. As a successful entrepreneur, you may make decisions that you can't explain to other people. And in hindsight, you'll see that you were right in making that decision. You can probably think of examples of well-known entrepreneurs who've made crazy decisions from the outside, but they felt within their gut that it was the right thing, and it was. Doesn't mean that they're always going to be right, of course, and that's another area that we're going to have a look at. You've got to get comfortable making, in inverted commas, expensive mistakes, because sometimes they will be expensive mistakes, but often they are necessary because of the learning that you get from them. And so that's an important part of the journey, the learning along the way. The important thing is not to get bogged down in those mistakes, to keep going be tenacious and accept the failure because it is part of your success and it's actually the biggest part of your success. You only have to look at people like Michael Jordan, for example, who's obviously a very famous athlete and extremely successful, one of the most successful in the world. And he has a quote where he says that I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. It's very powerful to keep that in mind. And I'm not sure if Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx, she said that failure is not the outcome. Failure is not trying. Don't be afraid to fail. And she actually credits the reason for her success is embracing and even chasing failure, because her father used to encourage her to fail every week. Round the dinner table, he'd want to know, what have you tried and failed at? And if she hadn't got anything to say, he was disappointed. So when you think about it, where is growth without failure? Does shame hide or lurk beneath failure for you? It's certainly been like that for me most of my life, and it is a struggle to change your mindset around it. I know that for sure. But we do need to understand how it works, accept it, and just get on with it. Perfectionism can be helpful up to a point because, well, the trait of perfectionism, it does at least help you have good high standards. And that's important. You want to do good work in the world. You want to bring good things into the world. You don't want to do a shoddy job. So that's great. And it's helpful up to a point. Basically, you need to get to the good enough stage and then let your curiosity take over. Play with it, test it. What will happen if I do this? Let's release it now and see what happens. Okay, that didn't work so well. This did. What can I do to improve that? You just have to accept failure as part of the process, and you will find success that way. So that, of course, also helps stretch that muscle or build that muscle with resilience and adaptability and your decisiveness. It makes it a lot easier to make decisions when you can make small decisions. It's when you leave everything up until this huge, big decision to make sure everything's absolutely perfect. That's when things get a bit stuck. You need to find that small little thing that you can do that will lead to the next small little thing. I'm a huge believer in baby steps. It's the only way I can function personally because it just paves the way forward and builds your confidence step by step. You don't have to launch into the world in some massive way. You can start really, really small. So having high standards can help to soothe our perfectionism parts without being stuck in analysis paralysis, which is obviously a danger for us as deep thinkers. We can really look at being an HSP as a gift or a drawback. We do certainly have our challenges, especially having grown up in a world that wasn't designed for us, but I do believe things are changing in the world. Let's just consider someone like Marie Forleo, who I'm sure you've come across online. She's shown us the power of our gifts and how we can use them. She's an HSP and she's been consistent with her message for many years. And I think what stood out for me when she started Marie TV many years ago now is that it was so beautiful. She looked lovely. She had this gorgeous studio, not initially, but she did develop that later. This gorgeous studio where she recorded episodes. And I think as an HSP, beauty is really important to us. And she did a wonderful job with her episodes and still does. And she gives and gave great free content, which doesn't mean much now because you can find so much free information on the internet. But at the time when she was really building her business, it wasn't that common to do that. And it was really valuable. And she genuinely wanted to give good value to her audience. And she wasn't expecting everybody to sign up for B School. But I certainly wanted to sign up for it and be part of the community because she built that following. So I hope you can see how the gifts that we have as HSPs, how useful they are for us when we have a business. We can look at the challenges of being an HSP another time, but I hope that's given you some perspective and encouragement to know that your idea is valuable to bring into this world and you are ideally suited to do so. What I'd like to invite you to do is to journal on this question. If I tuned into my inner knowing, what would be my next right step? I'll just say that again. If I tuned into my inner knowing, what would be my next right step? I'd love to hear what comes up for you. If you'd like to share, please do. I hope that you found this episode useful. I'd love to get your feedback on what you'd like to hear me tackle in further episodes. I would love to also invite you to consider your own high sensory gifts and how you might use them to build or to enhance your own business if you already have one. We really are more valuable and skilled than we perhaps give ourselves credit for. Next week, I'm excited to be talking to Willow McIntosh, who's the founder of Illuminance and who coined the term high sensory intelligence as a way of reframing highly sensitive person. And we're going to talk about your journey as a high sensory mother and also entrepreneurship as well, the gifts and the struggles there. So it's going to be really good. I hope you tune into that and have a wonderful week and speak to you soon. Bye for now. Enjoyed today's episode? If you haven't already, I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe and leave a quick review. It really does help other high sensory mothers discover this podcast. To stay connected, visit my website where you can sign up to receive episode updates straight to your inbox. Or book a free call if you're curious about working together. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to next time when I'll share more insights on embracing your high sensory gifts.